Hello everybody, B. Squarklehausen here, and I'm just gonna get right into it. We're on a limited time frame again, and a lot happens in this episode. Today I am continuing the build of Sequel Pass here. The little city that I was planning started last time, and this is my first ever real city in City Skylines II. Most of the time I've been toying around with the game. I've had it for a little while. I've been playing in Sandbox, but this time I'm trying to actually build a city and, show you guys, as I was going to say, as uncut as I can, but there's a lot that I had to edit out of this one, mostly because it's kind of boring to watch. It was very fun to play, though. I kind of felt myself getting sucked in a way I hadn't, so definitely enjoying the sort of bigger city gameplay more than the very small starter town. But anyway, to finally talk about what you see on screen almost a minute into this video, I'm starting off by trying to terraform stuff, and I got a little bit brave and immediately screwed up, of course. So the terraforming in this game is really robust, but you have to be pretty careful with it because you can really easily make a big mistake, and there's no Control Z. So you can't undo anything, and I'm now figuring out crap, what the hell do I do about this big thing? I ended up just kind of softening it back into oblivion and ignoring it, going back to what I was wanting to do, which was start laying the train tracks. So this was going to be a railroad town. Unfortunately for me, $2.20 and his much bigger channel did a much better looking railroad town on this exact same map. So I kind of pivot away from that, and I'm trying to figure out kind of where I want to take the little town of Sequel Pass and what I want to do with it. One thing I do know, of course, is it's got to have trains, so I just unlocked the trains and the passenger station at the very end of last episode. Now I'm trying to figure out how I'm actually going to do this. So this is one more sort of quibble that I have with the game. This is the only passenger train station. There's nothing underground, there's nothing elevated. I really would have liked an elevated station here. And most importantly for me, there's nothing smaller than this. So the game comes with a really awesome way to upgrade your plopped buildings. Well, some of them anyway. So I thought, of course, passenger station, maybe it's just like a couple platforms and tracks. No, it's actually this crazy 6-track, 3-platform thing. You can add 2 more platforms, and then I think you can add an extra 2 tracks or something like that for a bypass. And that's just kind of crazy to me. I was really hoping, and hopefully we'll see this as custom content pretty quickly after release, but I was really hoping that we'd get, it starts out just a small little thing, and maybe slowly you add on the building, the extra platforms, maybe even platform shelters that all make it better. But no, unfortunately, right now out of the box, all you get is the one station, and it's pretty big. So if you're trying to do something rural, just a little passenger whistle stop, kind of like I was, you're a little bit out of luck. So that was kind of a disappointment, but I ended up kind of really liking what I ended up doing. I don't know if you saw the little bit of planters in the front. I come back to that later and really kind of customize the whole park and make it really nice. So the rest of this stuff, again, I'm trying not to sound too negative because I really had a good time playing this. In fact, I had a lot better time playing this than last time. But I ended up running into a whole bunch of little quibbles and things. So one of them is I had never really played around with the train tracks before. I had touched them a little bit, just trying them out. And I thought, awesome, these tools feel really great. And they do feel really great. But as you can see, there's a few times where when you drag stuff out, it actually doesn't quite line up with what you're dragging. So you don't get as smooth of train tracks as you might be used to with City Skylines 1 plus Anarchy plus one of the network mods like Railway. Obviously, I'm comparing a heavily modded game with a completely vanilla one. But just to me, I was, really excited because it feels like you can get a lot smoother with highways and ramps than you can with rail, even when that should potentially be kind of the other way around. So trying to line up a handful of these different things and make them all work. This rail yard, again, I'm trying really hard not to just only be complaining, but the way the tracks are laid out, and of course I feel like I always have to connect them all, it bears no resemblance to how an actual rail yard would be. So I end up kind of adding a little bit of my own just so something feels kind of right. I've made some strange choices myself, just with what lined up with what on the rail yard. It's a little tricky kind of planning rail infrastructure in this game. It doesn't quite work how you might want, the having to place that giant depot, and if you want to place it near the station, making sure everything's lined up and plumbed in or whatever. Here's the cargo train terminal. Again, I keep going back on this, but it just kind of back-to-back quibbles. The only cargo train station in the game is a single-track terminal. You can upgrade with another single track. I actually think I cut that part out where I was experimenting with it, but there's no freight through station. So you have to put it on the end of a Y if you want trains to be able to access it from both sides. I just said screw it, my freight trains can only access one side of the map, which is a little annoying. But again, it's something I really hope will get fixed pretty soon. One thing that you probably noticed now, and you've probably already heard about if you're following City Skylines at all, is that the developers are listening to what we're saying. So last time, City Planner Plays, one of the YouTubers who has early access and a great watch if you want a video that's maybe a little more well-produced than this one, by somebody who actually knows what he's doing instead of pretending about knowing what he's doing. He talked a lot about wanting contour lines, and lo and behold, in a recent update, we got them, which is fantastic. So, I'm really hoping that that Colossal Order and Paradox are listening. In fact, I know they are. And, just hoping that maybe we'll be able to get some changes, or we'll see them in updates soon after the game launches. So, in any case, it's park time for me. So I unlocked parks kind of close to the end of last episode. I actually think it might be the same milestone where you unlock trains. And I'm trying to click around, make some parks. I'm missing prop line tool for sure, and I'm missing some of Park Life's features, but I think it's easier to make like nice little park complexes like this. That little path, I used it a little bit in the first episode, and I've kind of used it all over the place here. It is incredible. It's really small, and I know last time I kind of quibbled about like, oh, you can't really use this space filler or whatever, but as a little path, as something you can put in parks, along streets, I'm using it all over the place, and I actually really, really like it. So I think honestly a lot of my quibbles are just going to be like getting used to stuff. So anyway, I'm realizing now I'm still on Grand Village, the milestone, and it's time to get moving. So you can see my high density and medium density demand was through the roof for a lot of residential as I work on this park. And, there's the paths again that I was just talking about, kind of exactly talking about the wrong thing. But of course, that's just how this works out sometimes. So, God, look at those connections. It's just so good. Anyway, you can see I zoned a whole lot of medium density residential, and oh my God, that's pretty high density. So ended up saying, you know what, I want to step that down a little bit better. Those are even just the level 1 medium density buildings. I think they might be a little tall. I'd love to see something kind of in between the row houses and that medium density. I fix it on one side, forget to fix it on the other. And I think I do that. I don't know if I cut it out or not. Anyway, so this is now another sort of use of these pedestrian paths, as you'll see. I found this big, weirdly shaped block and said, you know what, I'm going to make some sort of, like, not quite gated subdivision. There's no actual gate, but some sort of subdivision. So taking the alleyway road, the little 1-tile wide zonable alleyway road, which I love, again, and saying those are going to be my local streets. They're going to be really nice and small. And then I use the pedestrian path here to kill the zoning from the outside roads. So there's no zoning toggle in this game quite yet. Hopefully that'll be soon as well. But for right now, I just used this path sort of like the old days in City Skylines 1, but just the increased scale of everything makes it feel a lot more realistic. The nice narrow path, and it'd be nice to be able to get rid of it and have it all work. So I might try that next time, because I know once buildings already grow, I can change the zoning. You can also see I've used the roundabout centers to make little cul-de-sac bulbs. Really wish those had like zoning on them, but I understand why they don't, because I think technically they're intersections or still nodes or something like that. There we go. Now I'm fixing the other side of high density. It's just a little too much for the city at this point, but honestly, by the end of the episode, it's not that far off of what we get. So I guess that's sort of a good time now to segue into the rest as I try the same sort of little pedestrian path technique to make a Towers in the Park type high-rise low-rent housing development. I found those a little bit hard to manage and make not abandoned, but again, I think that's just something I'm going to have to learn. So anyway, I want to talk about my sort of plans for Sequel Pass. So I realized that I sort of zoned the whole thing and set it all up as a little small American town, a little tiny old downtown, little train station, whatever. But especially with the train station being so big, I thought, it would be pretty cool. I want to try to keep the road layouts and things of my like quote-unquote historic downtown and upzone that. So instead of going and building a new downtown from whole cloth somewhere else, that train station and that area is going to become downtown. So I go back and forth a lot as I'm, going here trying to figure out how to spend my brand new development points. I'm always just one short of things. Always. So I get the bigger roundabouts. I'm going to be upzoning that to make that downtown. And of course, a big part of now the fact that the city's growing is I'm going to be redoing the entrance paths to actually better represent the real life ones. And this ended up being an interesting experiment. So the eagle-eyed among you, and the reason I left that unlocking tech tree section in and didn't cut it out, was because you might notice that I'm about to do some highway work without one of the nodes unlocked. That node, of course, being highways. So this is sort of an interesting thing. This game is extremely happy to just let you make an idiot of yourself like that. There's highways here on the map. They use the highway roads. I've got that nice high-capacity trumpet interchange, and I'm about to destroy it and not have a way to really put it back. There it goes. We can kiss that beautiful high-capacity interchange goodbye and get ready for me to make one that I really should have been a little bit smarter about. I don't know why I didn't just use the highway as the main roads. I drew in 2 other main roads that the real-life city has, and now I am making a high-capacity interchange to those roads, which connect to nothing at all, and a very low-capacity level interchange, including 3 back-to-back traffic lights, which the real one also has, to the regional highway in-game. So this is going to become a pretty major issue for Sequel Pass pretty soon. Not to spoil too much, but it's really kind of fun. And I know I'm saying that very tepidly, but it's been a long time since I've played a city builder game and just had the mechanics be kind of a fun challenge to battle. And honestly, even with Cities 2, every once in a while, the mechanics don't quite make sense. The zoning demand, especially in CS2, just flies all over the place, and it's hard to tell what demands are, I want to say, real, because there are times where I have really high office and industrial demand, and I'll build a bunch of office, and the actual demand was for jobs, so it completely vacuums away all of my industrial demand. But then there are other times where the industrial demand is because I need product. So I'm thinking, I'll just build some office. I won't have to worry about the pollution. I won't have to worry about any of that. And hey, guess what? It's actually because they needed materials. So sometimes these things can be dealing with the mechanics can be a little tricky. But dealing with the traffic that this interchange causes is a lot of fun, honestly. I haven't fixed it yet, so it's still, in this save file, pretty busted and broken. But I ended, I think, just as I unlocked another milestone, so I should be able to, or I already did, unlock highways. So hopefully I'll be able to fix it for next time. And yeah, we'll see, though. So this interchange, since I knew I was going to have to redo it, I ended up getting it close to what I wanted and then giving up. This is, I still can't believe you can just do that in the game. And yeah, so you can see there's a sort of weird hybrid, some level, some not intersection, and it's interestingly functional. I'll give it that. The regional road is pretty congested, and the hosts on the in-game radio will not let me forget that. So yeah, it's a lot. It's, trying to figure out how all this works, trying to figure out the sorts of mechanics, what you need to pay attention to, what you don't. And, in all my building so far, which has generally been either smaller cities or even just demo cities to see what some assets and things look like, I haven't really had many traffic problems. So I was kind of naive through this and just like put the regional highway on a road like that. But it turned out to be a fun challenge. It sort of continues to be. So, right here you can see, unfortunately, that ramp got a little too close. It's low enough to be able to automatically build an overpass, which, holy cow, again, what an incredible feature. So I ended up having to add this little extra bend in it just to make it be a little farther away, which I think slightly ruins the look. But again, once I get highways and things, I'll probably smooth all this out. If I want to keep it sort of more accurate to the real world one. Otherwise, I will throw it all away and make one that actually works for Cities Skyline. So on this side of the river as well, I figured, I've got all this road stuff, let's develop. And I actually make one of my favorite little low-density residential subdivisions. So access is just off of the main bridges and things, and I'd imagine this is probably, some of it's a nicer place to live, some of it's not, because you're right under these, like, effectively highway bridges that provide, like, truck traffic to the whole town. So it was sort of an interesting thing to try and vibe out and try to figure out the sort of way that I wanted to build this. See, again, I'm loving using these little roundabouts as cul-de-sac bulbs. It just works so well to cap off all these roads. So anyway, on this side that's closer to like the full big highway, you can see I zoned it a little more densely, a little smaller lots, and then now I'm kind of spacing things out where it's a little farther than roads. Say, let's try to avoid doing stuff too close to the bridges and things, though actually those are a little bit close. Maybe I'll go fix those. And trying to make some slightly larger lots and things for nicer houses on this side. I imagine like being this side of the bridges in town, plus kind of having that little view of the island there, which I'm planning on having remain undeveloped. I was hoping to do some sort of nature reserve park, but not in the game yet. It's all urban parks and things, which again, probably pretty nice. So you can actually see some of that rezoning I was talking about earlier coming into action. So I am getting rid of a lot of the low density commercial that sort of built this downtown, and using the brand new and extremely awesome mixed use development. I'm also rezoning some of the low density residential to row house. So we're sort of bumping up the urban core. So every time that I saw my demand for medium or even high density residential grow, my solution for that was, okay, great. We're going to rezone a huge chunk of downtown. Actually here, yeah, I've cut ahead. You can see how it's sort of coming along. And I really, really like this sort of technique rather than sprawling out to make a new downtown. So I would basically go and say, oh, I've got additional demand for medium density residential. I would upzone a whole bunch downtown, and then get demand for low-density residential, and then I would go and make more sprawl. I'd love it if there was a way to not have to make more sprawl, but this game loves its sprawl, and at least at this point in my sort of playthrough where I maybe don't quite understand how to like trick the mechanics and everything, they really want lots of low-density residential. So I just unlocked the Boomtown milestone, and as you can see, I'm sort of frantically flying all over the city, trying to do a whole bunch of stuff. I'm getting all these unlocks, new signature buildings, new stuff. I've got tech points to spend, or expansion permits, and XP, and all this extra stuff, trying to figure out what the heck to do. And then I remembered that I can also do specialized industry, so I'm like, ooh, there's this nice forestry patch right here. And then, I've got radio masts and things, so let's place those. And this is sort of, I wanted to keep this in, even though I think it might be a little hard to watch, so I'm sorry. But I think this is a really interesting way. When I was editing this, I realized this is kind of a live reaction to like what the game is telling me. And if you're the kind of person who needs a lot of reminders and things, or just like needs like constant simulation for what to do, or you'll just like kind of get bored, Cities Skylines II gets its hooks in deep. I have the in-game radio playing, and the ads and things go and will remind you and say, oh, there's traffic, oh, there's other stuff. And I think there's some of them are a little bit like, I don't have any electricity facilities in this game right now, and they keep talking about blackouts and brownouts. I'm like, that's not going to happen. I'm importing from the outside world. That shouldn't happen at all. But anyway, with Chirper, with the stuff that it's throwing at you, it feels like there's always just like one more building to plop or one more thing to do, and I'm just like constantly constantly distracted. So this is like, I'm now going and saying, all right, this is maybe the extent of the sprawl that I'm hoping to do, or at least the sort of denser grid-based sprawl. And I'm doing that right now because I wanted to finish up and define like a space for that forestry industry. So I figured I needed to find a nice area, so a little bit of zoning and plotting out the rest of the thing. And now you can see right here, I'm making a nice little local forestry industry, I suppose. So my guess is like at some point they owned more land and are now kind of cutting down and cutting back because they could make more money selling these houses. So this is very cool. And seeing that it kind of it tints the land a little bit is really nice. I wish we had a brush that could just do that cosmetically, but obviously I get that you want to see this. And now I'm like all in on these services. I'm like, okay, great. I need to figure out where to put farms and things. And of course, with this, the livestock farms you can put anywhere, but the farms and things that grow stuff are actually dependent on the resources in the ground. So back in City Skylines 1 in the Industries DLC, we had the ability to do to put these industries essentially anywhere, and they would either be like creators if they're on the right type of ground, or they would be like processing facilities. But here with this zoned industry, it's all for like creating, and I'm sort of trying to figure out how I want to be able to place these and get that. So I do this to start. I'm like, I don't love it. So I get inspired by the I don't know if it's even USGS at that point, but the Western US is covered in these mile by mile grids. And of course, a mile by mile is a little too big for City Skylines, especially for the stage of the game that I'm at. So I'm doing 500 yards by 500 yards, which is just about the space that one farm can cover in game anyway. So you can see here, I unfortunately don't own one of the corners of this 4-quadrant lot, but I'm going for it anyway. So I really like this sort of technique because it ends up kind of providing a nice boundary for some of these farms, and I wish their radius was just a little bit bigger, but I get that you have to balance it and make sure that each producer takes up enough land and enough of an area. So it makes a certain amount of sense, and I'll clean this up a little bit later as I sort of end up doing all this. But it's super exciting, and I really like this sort of big farm field thing. I just wish they could be even bigger. So, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with this mechanic, and it's limited to the resources and things. So now I'm like, ooh, let's start looking at some of that ore and oil and coal and all those different other ones. So you can see like Busy Town unlocked ore mining, but I also unlocked a policy. And after a little bit of looking around to see where the hell the policy menu was, I realized that it's all district policies this time, which is a really cool choice. So instead of any citywide policies, you get just district ones. So let's play with that. So I made my first ever district in City Skylines 2. I got the achievement. So there's a pro tip achievement guide here. Drag out any district and you get an achievement. But I, of course, said, at downtown, we're going to charge for parking on the street. So it's 10 cents or $10 or 10 C's down there. It's like the cent sign, but I don't think people pay for nuclear power plants in cents. So who knows? It's hopefully not egregiously expensive parking, but yeah. So now I'm trying to figure out, you can see on my demand, and this is where I'm now like fully into just like, okay, I'm living with the game mechanics, right? The game mechanics are building my city for me. And I've got pegged industrial and office demand. So I end up creating this little office park. Again, sort of the same idea as before. I end up switching these to the alley, and I think this actually looks really nice. So sort of a couple entrances from the road, just using regular 2-lane roads, and the alley to sort of be like the parking lot access thing. And I unlocked the actual parking lots, of course, before highways too. And it's just kind of a fun way to plan all that. So, now with that, I've just absolutely soaked up all that demand. Of course, now we crossfade to where there's demand. And here's where I make a huge mistake zoning. So I was trying to zone a whole bunch for row houses and things, And I just clicked and dragged over everything, and it threatened to destroy the entire town. So I had to go through lot by lot and try to fix this. And while I was at it, I also just kind of improved stuff, cleaned stuff up. So, a little bit more mixed use, a little bit more medium density, and really trying to, again, get back into this downtown. I want that center of town to be skyscrapers soon. And I'll tell you what, right at the end of this video is when I unlock high density housing. I don't build any in this one yet, but I unlocked it. And this is part of the reason why I don't build any, because my infrastructure will not be able to handle it. So, yeah, that's an exciting one. We'll figure it out. There's just gonna be traffic here. And anyway, I see all that traffic here and say, you know what, I do want to build roads, but in a quiet area where probably nobody's ever driven. So I end up coming down here and cleaning up the corners, which I think is kind of fun. So, I figured, like, if I can't drag the corners all the way out, let's just round them off in that way. And I think it looks pretty nice. So we'll see. I'm now, again, just like panicked that the whole city is going to break down with all this traffic on the entry highway on these roads, especially since some of my buildings and like houses and things are over there, but the schools are across the bridge. So I'm terrified I'm still terrified that that's going to kill my city. I know it doesn't this episode, but it's something I know I'm going to have to fix. And anyway, so now, obviously, if you take a look down in the corner again for zoning, once again, low density residential demand. It's insatiable. It's constant. They want it so much. And of course, I need to overbuild even, because I know that when I upgrade downtown again, I will destroy this. And then I noticed some snow on the mountains. So if you look, it's fall, it's 47 Fahrenheit there. Sorry to anybody who uses Celsius. Turning that to Fahrenheit and turning their other things to feet and yards and things was the first thing I did once I figured out that was possible. But it's really cool. The seasons are subtle. I don't know if this map gets like snow on the ground, but up in the mountains right nearby, it definitely does, and it's just so sort of cinematic looking. Doing one more little office park, and I think this might even be the last thing that I do in this video. Or at the very least, getting close to the end. It's just a few more little tune-ups and things. Oh, that's right. I'm just like, I need to jam in industry anywhere I can. I'm trying to limit sort of the industrial sprawl. Like the low-density residential is fine, I guess. Got to keep the city growing and everything. But the industrial sprawl is sort of problematic in that it has to be downwind of the rest of your town, and I've kind of built it where I don't have that much room for industry with the way that the wind blows. So I'm still just upzoning, still trying to keep as much in place as I can before supply chains and things break down completely, and that's pretty close to where I'm leaving it. So this was a really different City Skylines 2 experience for me than the first one, where the game mechanics and simulation got a lot more challenging to deal with. And again, I'm usually somebody who plays with all of these turned off, as close to sandbox mode or full-blown sandbox mode, or modded everything out, or whatever you can. So this is sort of a really weird, interesting way to play for me, and I had a lot of fun doing it, honestly. I think if you're that kind of person, this is really going to be a good extra challenge. It felt deeper than Cities 1. Honestly, I haven't played Cities 1 like this in years and years and years, though. Just fixing the train tracks and terraforming. I can't start or end an episode without trains. You know that by now, hopefully. But I thought that was really interesting, trying to play with these mechanics, and they really do feel deeper than Cities 1. I'm not 100% sure they feel right, though. So I'm going to try and withhold some more judgment to see if they feel like correct as we cut the cinematics. But yeah, it's really interesting. And, I don't have a lot of time left in the video, but you can see right here, just like it feels more realistic from a larger scale. You've got all that sprawl to support this modest downtown core. And while I don't love building sprawl, it's cool and it looks great. Anyway, I've been Besquarklehausen. Please subscribe for the next video, which will be another City Skylines 2 thing. I will see you all next time. Thanks.